Hey everybody, welcome to iCommand. This is TV Boy, and today I wanted to talk about the cards that were recently rebalanced, announced on January 31st. We had 5 cards that got changed, either with errata or changing in power level for rebalance after 3 months of competitive meta. However, before I talk about that, I do want to talk about some very important news. Imperial Assault will be returning to Adepticon in 2022. For those that don't know, this is a wargaming convention that's held in Schaumburg near Chicago, Illinois in March. And this is actually where the World Championship was held in 2019. And it was scheduled to be held here in 2020, except that, as we all remember, March 2020 was pretty much the last month of the world ending, and so the Adepticon got canceled, and that was the final scheduled organized play event for Imperial Assault before FFG dropped all support. So, Adepticon, originally we were not going to have an event at Adepticon this year. However, they reached out to us a couple weeks ago and asked if we were interested, and let us know that they actually have prize support from Asmodee from the canceled 2020 Worlds event that they is being released to us if we have an event at Adepticon. So he said, well, can't not do it. We got to get that prizes out of there off that pallet and into the hands of Imperial Assault players. So bit of a rush job, but we do have now some events that we've submitted to the Adepticon schedule. I don't think they're up on the site just yet. I just finished submitting them this morning. However, I can run through them here. So what's going to be happening is, so the event is March 24th to the 27th. And we're going to have, on Friday the 25th, we're going to have a 2020 throwback tournament. So this is going to be FFG cards only, no IACP, and this is going to be a favor that we're doing to the non-IACP skirmish community that would be interested in something like this. So it's going to be a one-day tournament, 4 rounds of Swiss, max 24 players. That's all the space they said they have for us, and cut to top 4. We're going to have some awesome prizes being provided by this channel, by Built on Hope. We've also got people who have been able to commit to going down to running the event. So good friend of the channel from Built on Hope podcast, David Gao, is going to be running it, as well as a committee member, Josh Songer, and his wife is actually going to be, April, are going to be going down, and April's going to be helping out with a lot of the data entry, scoring, running the event. Very thankful to these folks who have volunteered to go. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be there, but I will definitely be supporting from afar. And okay, so Friday going to be the FFG event, and then in addition to that, on Friday we're also going to do IACP 4-player pods on demand. So that's going to be basically anybody who wants to can put their name in a queue, and then as soon as we get 4 players interested, we'll text everybody so they come back and play a 4-player game with some IACP cards for people that want to play IACP that day, or people that maybe are playing in the tournament and decide they want to drop and play 4-player. You can do that. So that's a side event, and then the main event is going to be on Saturday the 26th. Both of these tournaments are going to be starting at 10 a.m. and the main event is going to be ICP. This is where we're going to be giving out those Worlds 2020 prizes. We don't know what they are yet, but we've been led to believe it's going to be similar to the prizes given out for the 2019 Worlds, which included special dice, really nice acrylic tokens, lots of alt arts, stuff for top 16, top 4, and the champion, and of course an awesome trophy. So that's going to be given out on the Saturday, the main event, which is going to be IACP Season 6 content, and that's going to be 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Again, 4 rounds of Swiss with a top 4 cut, max 24 players. So yeah, just want to get that out there. We're still working on the prizes and everything. Just kind of getting a whole hang of, or getting a handle on what all we have and how we want to distribute it, because we have a lot of prize support available for ICP just amongst us that hasn't been really distributed because of the pandemic. So we're going to get that all put together and get an announcement put up on the site, but I just wanted to put it out here that we're going to be back at Adepticon. Okay, so let's talk about these adjustments that came out on Monday. These are live on Vassal, still being updated. They've all been updated in the official documents on the IACP website. So, by the way, I should probably mention that if you go to the official changes site, this has been fully updated. So now we have printable cards for every season, and these are printable sheets that you can actually print out. If you just print it out on 8.5 by 11, it'll print at the correct size where you can cut these out and put them in a sleeve. So these have all been updated, and again, it's all by season now instead of one big document. So if you came back and you did season 3 through 1, 2, 3, you go ahead and just print out season 4, 5, and 6, and you should be all good to go. And we'll make sure to put the adjustments on the most recent season. And then for people that want to do a bit more professional printing, we have made these images available to everyone. So you can go here and print out individual cards, or just drag and drop into a printer service, and these are all updated and correctly sized, and they have the extended borders so that it doesn't get cut off when you do that. Okay, so going back to the announcement. So 5 cards were updated. Originally this was going to be the release of Season 7, but again, we made that announcement a few months ago that we saw that people were getting a little bit overwhelmed by how fast the changes were coming out, and we decided to postpone Season 7 to April 25th. And so in lieu of that, we knew that we might need to update something balance-wise, because in the past we've used the introduction of a new season to rebalance older cards that need it. So in lieu of a season release, we just said we're going to do a balance update on the 31st, and that's what this is. So we've got 2 cards that were errata'd, not for power level reasons, but for clarity, and then 3 cards were rebalanced for power level. So the first one, let's talk about the first card here, which is CT-1701's command card called Wildfire. So this is actually not an IACP card. This is an FFG card. This card does not need to be did not need to be updated for IACP. However, what's happening is with Wildfire, the way that this card was worded by FFG, and by the way, this came out in Tyrants of Lothal, which was the last expansion for Imperial Assault, and it was pretty notorious for having playtesting issues. This is again the expansion that also released Spectre Cell. So for some reason they decided to use this use while attacking language, which is very confusing because many people have seen the rule in the rulebook that says if a card says use while attacking, you can use it at any point. And then it says except for these 3 types of effects, which are cards that add dice to the dice pool. You can only use those before dice are rolled. Cards that reroll dice, those have to be used during the reroll step, and cards that add modifiers, those have to be used during the modifier step. There's nothing in the rules that talks about cards that remove dice from the dice pool, because every card that says remove dice from the defense pool says use when you declare an attack. Element of surprise says that. Run for cover says that. It says when an attack is declared, that's when you remove dice from the dice pool. And that's what this card does. It removes dice from the defense pool. It does not cancel results. So cards like that actually remove results after dice are rolled, that would be something like Heightened Reflexes. And that card says specifically, choose one dice, remove that dice's results from the defense results. This does not talk about the results. It's talking about the dice pool, which is just the pool of dice that you gather before you roll. And we have confirmed, there's actually, I think I link it here, but Pasi Ojala, who's well known for his rules expertise, he created this ability resolution order during attacks, and if you look at where Wildfire is, it's right here during the roll dice step. So before rolling, it says right here, remove 2 dice from the defense pool before rolling. So if you do it after the dice are rolled, you're not going to get any benefit from it. Unfortunately, a lot of people were misreading it because of this use while attacking phrase as it's like a super heightened reflexes, and that's not what it's meant to be. It's meant to be a super element of surprise, which is very different because getting to see the dice results before you play the card is much more powerful than it was intended to be. So we've gone ahead and taken the liberty of issuing an errata for this card, basically just to make it work the way it's supposed to work, that we understand it from rules experts on the game have said this is how it's supposed to work, so we're going to errata it to work this way and just be clearer for people. And this really is mostly just for Vassal. That way, when people are playing on Vassal online, they'll have this better worded version, and they won't get tripped up. Really, as long as you understand how the card works, you don't really need to print this out for your IACP games. You just need to make sure that you understand how it works and make sure your opponent understand how it works. But it's available for people, especially if you're going to give it to like a new player to use. I think printing out this version is a good idea, and sleeving it up over the original. So the next one is again an errata. So Clan of Two is being errata. This is an attachment from Season 4. It's gotten a lot of play recently because it's part of Mandalorian's kit, the 10-point version from Season 6. But it was pointed out to us that we'd actually made a rules error, and then this is on me, of course, because I tend to handle a lot of the rules and templating and stuff for these cards, or I'm very meticulous about it. I take that upon myself. So there was a fundamental misunderstanding of how the rules work with companions, where if you read the rules on companions, it says that companions are treated as being adjacent to figures that share a space with them, which is completely opposite from how normally adjacency works. Usually you're not adjacent to your own space. And so we took that to mean that you could just say, well, you just need to move the companion to an adjacent space, and that will include your own space if you're the attached figure. It turns out that we misinterpreted the rules a little bit on that. Companions are adjacent to the space that they're currently occupying, but that doesn't mean that they would then be able to change how adjacency works for when they get put to a new space. So we had to just basically change the text on this to say, instead of just an adjacent space, now you can put the companion, you can both deploy it and you can push it at the end of the activation, either to an adjacent space to the figure that it's on, or to the same space as the figure that it's attached to. This is how it was always meant to be played. We did, after it was pointed out to us that we got the rules wrong, we did enforce it for a little while that you had to play it as it read. But we found it was just very confusing for people. It was unintuitive. It didn't work the way people thought it did when they read it, and it also had implications for other cards that work with the companion being in a certain space, mainly Protective Fire on Mandalorian. So we went ahead and updated that by adding your space to those. And actually, I'll reveal that the reason that I just left out your space originally is because it added an extra line of text. And it was already very text heavy, and I didn't want to make the font any smaller, so I thought I was getting away with something by omitting that, and it turns out I was not. So I was able to make some more space in this other ability, rewording that, so that still works the same. When you cannot suffer damage unless it used to be you cannot suffer damage unless you are the target of an attack, which is 2 lines, and I changed that to unless it is being attacked, which is 1 line. So little trick hack there to save that extra line. Okay, so those are the erratas. Those are not going to go up for reapproval by the community because they're not really changing power level wise. It's just we're fixing errors or inconsistencies in those cards to make it work the way people should see it working or read it working. Okay, so let's go to the first rebalance, and this is a big one. Mandalorian Rising Phoenix. So this card was very powerful. It got a lot of changes throughout the playtesting period. We thought we had nerfed Beskar's Spear from its original version, where you got to just do 2 melee attacks at full power, to being able to do a melee attack with a red and a yellow, but it has Pierce 2. It turns out that with how fast he is and how durable he is, and his having that reroll as well, also having access to focus, Yeah, he just deletes figures really quickly in one activation with that red, yellow, green when he's focused with a reroll and awesome surges. And then the Clan of Two being free on him just makes him super durable. I think a lot of people really underestimated or undersold how strong Clan of Two is. With Mando giving him that extra HP each turn with Force Heal, and then also giving him a free what do you call it, tough luck or run for cover when you're ready to cash in the child and incapacitate it. Makes him really hard to kill, and then he's really fast, so he can escape really easily if you don't kill him. Yeah, so, and he ended up being really popular. I mean, if you look at my YouTube channel, like the last few videos of just finals and other types of like finals or videos have all been Mando. And then he also has a lot of really powerful tricks with having a companion available for free. Mainly, what was it? Field Tactician, I think, was the card. Yeah, Field Tactician. It's a 1-point card. Any figure, a special action. Choose a figure within 2 spaces, and that figure performs a move. Well, the child companion can play that on Mando. So Mando gets to move 5 from that, and then he gets another 5 on his own activation. So he gets to move 10 spaces, and then Beskar spears somebody. So I mean, yeah, you can see how popular Mando. I mean, these were like finals or late in the events that they were played in. So he's been doing really well in tournaments. He's won at least one VST, and he won the. I mean, the players using him played well, but they won using this card, and he's been extremely highly represented just across games that we've collected data on. He's like the 7th most popular figure in the game as of November. In terms of play data, he is the most popular non-support figure in the game. So the only figures more popular than him are like 3PO, Gideon Argus, R2D2, Imperial Officer, Bib Fortuna, Jabba the Hutt, those types of figures. So he's kind of been everywhere. So yeah, he definitely needed a rebalance. So anyway, moving on to the fixes here. So we did 2 things to him. First, you'll notice that Mudhorn Crest, the ability that reduces Clan of Two to 0 points, that has been removed. This was a suggestion we got from the community that we decided we all liked. Just because at 10 points without Clan of Two, he's already pretty much balanced around being 10. He's really good for 10 without Clan of Two. So Clan of Two is just making him too strong. It was also what turns on Protective Fire. And Protective Fire turned out to be a lot stronger than it would normally be on something like Han, because his playstyle leads him to being this like very aggressive rushdown character where he like moves really fast. He gets into your backline. He like deletes something with Beskar Spear with focus and Hunter cards, and then you've got this Mando in your backline. You have to shoot at him, but there's usually not very many good places to do it, and you usually have to trigger his Protective Fire, so he gets to hit you again before he jetpacks out of there on the following round. So Protective Fire is really strong with Mando. It also has a lot of tricks you can use with where it's flexible compared to like Return Fire. So if you've got a figure that's taken a lot of damage, you can put your companion on that figure, and now all of a sudden, like, your opponent can't just not shoot at Mando. They have to shoot at the figure they're going to kill, and then they're going to get punished for it. So it's very flexible ability. It's very fun, though. It's very evocative. People really liked it, so we're not getting rid of it, of course. And in fact, really all these changes are meant to be very subtle and, like, not subtle, I mean, like, in ways that don't change how the figure plays or how you build your list around him. I mean, this does increase his cost from 10 to 11, but you could still run him at 10 if you wanted to. But like things like removing Hunter or like reducing his speed from 5 to 4, those are all discussed, or getting rid of Reach. But we found that, or in my opinion, and this was an opinion I brought to the steering committee, those were all big changes that would really require a playtest period debut where people are ready to try something new. But people have gotten attached to how this figure plays, and changing how he plays fundamentally would be very disruptive to people, and we don't want to do that in the middle of a competitive season, but we do realize that he needs to be toned down. So, Mudhorn Crest removed, so you'll now have to pay 11 points to bring Clan of Two. We've also added wording to Protective Fire that calls out Clan of Two as being the thing that brings the child companion, basically just so that any new players to IACP who are looking at this card, they won't be confused by, like, what is this child companion? Where does it come from? I don't understand. They'll see, oh, there's a card called Clan of Two. I should go look that up. And then the next thing we changed was Beskar Spear. So instead of Pierce 2, it now applies Pierce 1. And instead of a red and yellow, it's a green and yellow. So we've both cut down the maximum damage that this attack can deal by 1. Since green has 1 less max number of symbols on it than red, and we've also reduced the floor, the minimum damage, by reducing that Pierce 2 to Pierce 1, and that hopefully should reduce the amount of damage, because we did feel that even at 10 points he still deals too much damage even without the child, just too much damage too quickly. So we're hoping that this will make it so that he can't as consistently kill off like 7, 8, 9 point figures as he can right now, or that he has to invest more resources instead of it just being sometimes a freebie with a high roll. So that's the changes to Mando. We really hope he ends up being a balanced and fun figure to use. We don't want him to be not worth using because he's really fun. But we did recognize that he needed to be rebalanced. Alright, moving on to the next card. Overwhelming Impact. So this is a card from Season 5. It's for heavy weapons and Wookiees. It's a command card. Originally cost 2 points. And it has abilities where, while attacking, for each defense die you rolled, you add +1 damage and +1 surge. And then during this attack, you ignore all defense results that are not on the defense dice. So, I love this card. This is my baby. Originally designed for heavy weapons. Originally designed in reaction to Season 3 meta, where we had Royal Guards and Jedi beef spam and Vader Queen spam, as the Brits like to call it. Just running amok in the meta. Nothing was dying. It was very slow and boring. And so this was part of the solution that we tried to introduce. Was this card was very clearly, very directly calls out those types of strategies where it punishes you for adding defense dice, and it punishes adding defensive symbols. Now, originally it cost 2, now it costs 3. The reason for that being, we've just had a lot more opportunities to see this card get played in action. And originally, when we first were costing it, we debated between 2 and 3. And the reason we costed it as 2 was we felt that in theory, if you ever came up against a not defensive list, then you were only really adding 2 symbols to the dice, 1 damage and 1 surge. And that wasn't really worth 3 points. It was barely worth 2 points. It was really worth like 1.5 points. So we kept it at 2, feeling like there would be enough times where it didn't work out as well. And then we also just liked the impact it had on the meta, pun intended, of just how much it punished these defensive lists really well, and then how much it rewarded these 2 under-supported traits, which were heavy weapons and Wookiees, that really needed the help at that time in Season 5. But you know what, we've seen Wookiees do really well this season with Fury of Kashyyyk, and we've also been seeing heavy weapons do well, and they've also gotten new cards that are pretty strong, including Cara Dune and the Z6 Trooper. So we felt, and then having seen it in action, we often see this card adding, 3, 4, 5 damage, because that surge often enables a surge for +2. And then you get the +1, which is 3. And then if you cancel like 2 blocks from a power token and an innate, that's that's 2 more extra damage. So now you're doing 5 damage with this card, and that was too much for a 2-point card. That I felt like, personally, when I brought this up, I felt that misrepresented the power level we're trying to set for IACP. Even though it's arguable that it worked within the context of the figures that could play it, it was also hamstringing us for future designs where it's like, well, can we make this card because they have overwhelming impact? Or, it feels like heavy weapons still don't have a good 3-point card, but impact feels like a 3-point card. So this is going to open that up, and I think this is a much more appropriate cost for this card. It's still ridiculously powerful. Like, it's much more powerful oftentimes than Assassinate because you can play it in combination with other cards. And you can do things with it, like combine it with certain things. It adds surges, which is really strong, as well as adding damage. But I think that at 3, this is the appropriate level for this card. And the steering committee agrees. We all agreed. These were all... this is a very long discussion period for these cards, for sure, within the steering committee. Okay, the final card that's getting rebalanced, Guild Programming. This is IG-11's card. It says, when you perform Rapid Fire, so that's special action, perform 2 attacks. That's on his deployment card. Before you declare each attack, you become focused. And this card used to cost 1 point. It has now been readjusted to 2 points. So when IG-11 came out in Season 4, originally he was only attacking with 2 dice. We realized that a 9-point figure needs to be hitting harder, especially one that's not a hunter. Since IG-11 is a guardian and a droid and not a hunter, he didn't have access to a lot of the damage modifiers that other scum figures do. It was considered borderline at the time to have it be 1 point instead of 2, but it seemed like it was working okay and it wasn't causing problems. And it seemed like IG-11's drawbacks were keeping the card in check at 1 point. However, as the seasons went on, IG-11 got more access to more toys, including Rapid Recalibration from Season 5, which is a droid card. Bib Fortuna from Season 6, which allows any scum figure to discard a command card for +1 damage. And then finally, the really big one was Dr. Aphra in Season 5, who lets you each turn get to choose and replay a 0 or 1 cost command card at the start of each round. And with guild programming being 1 point, that just ended up being too much to be able to play that card twice in a game. Dr. Aphra's excavate ability is quite balanced around 0 and 1 point cards that are worth 0 and 1 point. So that's why she specifically calls out Take Initiative to not be able to use that, because Take Initiative is not really worth 0, but it's been balanced around being 0 points because of negation and how that whole thing works with keeping turn order from being deterministic and boring. But in the same way, guild programming is not a card that is worth 1 point. It is adding 2 dice to your total output. 2 attack dice. That's worth more than 1 point for sure. It is restricted to just IG-11, so that is a restriction, but it balances out with how much raw value you're getting from the card. So ultimately we decided that, and I played a lot of IG-11 and Aphra in the competitive league and was able to see how devastating it is to be able to do this, to play this card twice with IG-11. We felt that Aphra was working really well aside from this one interaction, and that this card, it was time for it to go up to 2. So those are all the changes for January 31st. So far the reaction from the community has been very positive, and we're hoping that this is going to do well for the meta and make things just feel that much more balanced. I don't think we were that far off, honestly, with this meta. Things were feeling good. It's just Mando was a little bit oppressive, starting to feel oppressive, and then those 2 command cards were a little bit out of line with where we wanted the balance point to be. So hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope you guys consider coming out and checking out Adepticon. Hopefully those events will go up on the site very soon. And thanks for watching. We'll see you later.